Hi guys, it's Amy with Aim to Plan, and today I am here talking task management. So I feel like I'm constantly changing how I track my tasks, but for 2025, I've decided to try something new. So I will link a couple of videos in the description of how I have previously talked about my tasks. One of the, I guess, more impactful ways that I've talked about tasks is how I treat tasks basically like events, or maybe the opposite, like how I treat events like tasks. And so I really wanted to talk today about how in 2025 I am keeping track of tasks. I'll show you a little bit of an example of how I do that. Yeah, let's just get into chatting. So right now I have a combination of I have tasks everywhere, right? Like when you look around your house, there are things in your house that you need to do, and there are things in your brain that you want to do. There are things just floating around in terms of paper and other little small projects that you just keep on your desk that are meant to be things that you're supposed to be doing. How do you keep track of all of those? Well, I've gone through several different systems, and I finally decided in 2025 that this was the year that I really need to think about how I'm doing it and try to combine it into one system. And so that's kind of where we are. I'm going to show you, and really in talking out loud this process, hopefully I can give you some inspiration for how I do it. Again, definitely adapt it if it's something that you want to do. I don't at all encourage you just to adopt my method without examining it critically. So make sure that you're looking, evaluating, judging for yourself whether it would work for you or not. But I am going to show you my actual pages and talk to you about how this works. And again, the reason why I'm doing this is because I just feel like I need a way of organizing my tasks that makes sense to me. So I'm going to show you right now my catch-all, right? And so this is in my Franken planner. I have right now my monthly calendar for January, which, the second half of the month is super empty, but I'm hoping in the next couple of days it will fill out. I definitely have events that I need to put in here, right? And then I have right here this monthly dashboard layout. Now, what I was thinking in terms of task management is that I wanted to try to put my big January projects on this side. And then I decided for 2025 that I would either leave this blank or just make it a decorative page. In fact, one of the things that I want to do is maybe just cover it up with scrapbook paper and just put January 2025 on here, just so that way it's not something that I've written on and need to have with January. And the reason for that is if I make this decorative and it just says January, then I will know that these pages are for January. It's on this side of it. And then I'll go into this side and have essentially just my January tasks. It does say it here, but I just want it to be on this page as well. It doesn't say January on this side, right? And what I've been doing is just writing all of my tasks here, but not directly here. So let me flip forward a little bit more. In fact, what I'm going to do is pull out this sheet of paper just so I can talk to you about it. All right, so we're gonna go and we're just gonna start with January 1st. This is not a good, it is a good example. Okay, so what I did was for January 1st, I put my to-do list right here. Now these are just random things I thought about during the day that I wrote down here. And what I've been trying to do is just write them down directly on the daily page. And that works out really well. Sometimes I do complete it. So like, for example, I completed this one on January 1st, so I checked it off, but these others, I did not finish them. So instead of taking this list and carrying it to January 2nd, what I've decided to do is put it on the monthly page, right? So you'll just see, for example, evidence of insurability is right there. HSA for lotion for the ear, I put it right there. Of course, I crossed it off. I really shouldn't have had it here. And then right here, it will say money for Julie, right? And it says here, money for Julie. Now you'll notice here that it has a check mark because you'll see later that I completed that task. But all of the tasks that are not done, I moved on here, all right? This also is a set of tasks, so I moved it over there. Right now, I'm gonna try to find this money for Julie. I paid my sister because she actually ended up purchasing the king cakes for me that we're going to go pick up this week. So excited about that. Actually, we probably are, depending on when I upload this video, we probably already picked it up. So let's see. Okay, I'm trying to find where I put it. It's in here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Julie, right? And so once I completed it, I marked it off here and I marked it off there. And I do rewrite it on the day that I complete it. Okay, so now what I need to do is basically just take a look at this. For all of the pending tasks, I don't have to do it within the day. I don't have to flip back to a previous day in order to look at the task list. I can just look at this one sheet. And my goal is for 2025 is to be able to take these pages, this January page, and all the January pages that I end up using for tasks, and just carrying it over. I'm going to take these pages and move it with me to February, and just use it as a running to-do list. And so I hope that is really helpful for me to be able to track my to-do list. Now I do want to show you a couple of other things, just as an example, like right here. These tasks were all tasks that were on that monthly page that I showed you earlier. They are also ones that I wrote earlier on a different day, probably the January 2nd date. So I was sitting down, planning with Sophia, wrote down all the things that she wanted to do. And so then here on the 5th, which was her birthday, these were all the things that either I completed on the 5th or sometime before the 5th. And I just went ahead and wrote it all here. So that way I had a record on the day of when I completed it. And then I also marked them as completed on that monthly layout page. So hopefully you can see it's listed in 2 places, but it just makes sense for me. There are also other occasions where I feel super overwhelmed and I want to just brain dump. And so the way that I'm going to be doing that is to, let me just show you an example, is to basically use these spots that I have here to brain dump. I'll show you, maybe this is a good example. I'll just sit down and I'll say, okay, there's lots on my mind. I'll just write down everything, right? I also have a digital system that I'm using and I'm trying to remove all of my tasks from there, okay? And it's called Remember the Milk. I do have about 60 tasks, which I'm just once in a while, every few days, I'll go in and write down about 10, 20 of them on a list. And so these are either things that I've completed, things that I don't want to complete, or they're just on there and I do want to complete them, and so I'll leave them unchecked. And if they end up on here unchecked, then I'll move it to the monthly layout page. And so the goal with that type of process is that every day I will have a working to-do list for that day. I wrote those things that day. If it doesn't get done that day, it gets transferred to the monthly layout page, so that way I can use it to reference every single day for things that I had thought I needed to do, but I haven't done that day. So here on January 10th, these 2 things, the videos for Go Wild tickets and the cash for Jeff tomorrow, I did not complete those. And so they ended up on that monthly page. In some cases, like for example, this cash for Jeff, I ended up completing on a future date. And so I would have it here, and I would write it here and mark it off there, check it off here as well. And it would just kind of like go that way, where it's like the self-generating list where I have a running to-do list of everything. I consider the monthly layout kind of like my running brain dump of like tasks, or I guess not a brain dump, but it's more like my pending task list. But all of the tasks end up on here initially. Right, here's another good example of like tasks that I'm pulling from Remember the Milk. These are all ones that I do want to complete. I haven't checked them off or marked them with an X saying I'm not going to complete them. So all of these I still want to do. So they need to go on my monthly layout, and they are on there. So that's just kind of how I do it, is I write it here on the day, so that way I know when I had that thought that I needed to do it. If I don't get it done that day, I move it to the monthly layout. And then when I do complete it, after reviewing every single day, if I complete something, I will mark it as complete on the monthly layout, but also mark it, just rewrite it again and mark it as complete on the day of when I complete it. And that's kind of how I'm doing it. So a little bit convoluted maybe, but it just works for me. I'm trying to consolidate my to-do list. I am not in January, I don't think, but in February, my goal is to consolidate even further. And I'm going to be taking all of my paperwork and tasks that are in my Sunday basket system and combining it with this system as well. So right now for January, my goal is to get through all of my Remember the Milk tasks. And again, mostly that's just writing it out. So that way I have a like written copy of it on my daily pages. But in February, I will be moving into just like the physical to-dos that I have and trying to make note of those things as well. So stay tuned for more updates about that. I hope this was a helpful explanation. I'm just trying out different things in terms of task management, and I'm hoping that the idea of like this pending task list and using the monthly layout for that is helpful for me. And so I've done it for 2 weeks. It feels like it's working, but you know me. I have to change things up all the time. So hopefully I can keep some consistency with my task management for 2025. That's my goal at least. So yeah, that's where we are. Leave me any comments, questions that you might have about how I'm doing this. Again, I hope the explanation was helpful and walking through my planner and showing you where everything is was helpful. But if you do still have questions, feel free to ask me. I'm more than happy to answer them. But if you did like this video, please do give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't done so. And until the next video, bye guys.